All right. So welcome. Thank you to our prospective students for joining, and thank you very much all of our faculty members. And it's great to see so many active participants from the department. Quick few housekeeping items before we get going. My name is Becca Melnick. I am the Associate Director of Admissions here at the Yale School of Public Health. And I just want to thank everyone for being here today. This is part of our kind of department week. So all week we've been hosting events with faculty from each of our departments and programs, as well as student chats with current students in each department and program to really be able to provide an opportunity for our prospective students to learn more about the school and the program and kind of the experience here. So today I am joined by a wide range of faculty in the epidemiology of microbial diseases department who can share a little bit about their backgrounds, their research, their courses, the curriculum, the program, kind of really answer any questions that those of you who are here with us today have, and kind of just give an overview of the department. Like I said, I am recording this today, so we will distribute this to anyone who couldn't join us live. So just keep that in mind if you do participate, and we really encourage you to participate. We, encourage questions for everyone here today. Please feel free to use that raise hand feature, turn your camera and mic on, or use the chat. We want this to be helpful for you. Yes, Dean Vermont, do you have a question?
I have a conflict, so I'm wondering if I can just greet the students.
Sure.
Remind them that I am available if anyone has any questions trying to decide where to do their MPH studies. I'll put my telephone number in the chat, and I'll do that now before I forget. And at the end of the day, I still have my Nashville telephone number, so don't be surprised if it comes up Tennessee. But we have a fantastic department of epidemiology, microbial diseases. I pinch myself every time I think about the talent among my colleagues, and I'm proud to be a member of this department in my own right. And stepping down from the deanship next year, I'll be resuming my more active engagement with students and take on student mentees and the like. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to work with all my colleagues on the important research questions of the day. And I think it's hard to find a better place to study the epidemiology of infectious diseases than Yale. We have breadth, we have depth, we have a student-oriented faculty, and we have tremendous research and field placement opportunities, regardless of which path you'd like to go down, whether you're looking to doctoral work in infectious disease control and prevention, whether you're looking for laboratory experience, whether you're looking for experience that might be a pathway to the CDC or state health department, whether you're pre-med, whatever your motive, I think you can get what you need from this department. So after that little cheerleading speech, I'm going to have to slip off, and I apologize.
Thank you, Stan.
I can't answer a question if any of the students have one. Otherwise, you have my cell phone. If there's a question that I can answer that others can't, please don't hesitate to text me, and I'll call you back at my first convenience.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Stan.
I'm glad that Dean Vermont was able to get a quick introduction here. He is the Dean of the School of Public Health here. So that was a very welcome surprise to be able to share with all of you. So I think that was kind of the end of my housekeeping items, just a reminder of all the events that we have coming up. And just a note that we're always here to help. So I'll kind of go over how to contact us and what we have going on and kind of the admissions timeline towards the end. But so with that, I'm going to turn over to Professor Kaveh Krishnan, who is actually the chair of the admissions committee for all the MPH programs and a faculty member here in the Department of Epidemiology of Microbial Diseases.
Thank you so much, Becca. I really appreciate it. And thanks for all my wonderful colleagues that are here. I think what we'll do is, since there's not too many students who are able to join us today, or applicants, I'm going to ask the applicants to introduce themselves And if there's a particular topic, infectious disease topic of interest to you, just mention if you have one. And then we'll go around and get the faculty to introduce themselves. And if you can, please turn on your video so we can see you. So let me see, maybe I can just call the names. Sarah?
Yeah, happy to go. My name's Sarah Baum. I'm a research assistant working at a nonprofit called EcoHealth Alliance. And so most of my interest is in One Health and essentially predicting the next pandemic. I have to say I'm actually interested in the PhD, but hoping to just hear from more faculty and just put more names to faces. So thank you for having me.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah. Jay? Jay, are you able to hear me? All right, let me move on. Is it, oh, okay, cannot hear. Jamie, can you introduce yourself and tell us if there's a particular topic of interest that you want to mention?
Hi, my name is Jamie. I have been working as a COVID-19 case investigator over the last year at my local health department, and I'm passionate about COVID-19 research. I'm kind of diving into the variants and transmission and understanding more of the long-term effects. So I'd be interested in continuing pursuing COVID-19.
Awesome. And where are you located?
I'm in Michigan, Berrien County, Michigan. So.
Great. All right. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Shichi, if I pronounce it wrong, please correct me. Shichi Wu?
Yeah, hi. I'm Shichi, and I'm senior student from China. So it's 6 a.m. now. So my interest topic is maternal and child health, especially in HIV prevention. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I see that Jay did put in the chat box that Jay is in the final undergraduate year studying microbiology and immunology at McGill, interested in learning more about the program. All right. Is it Shauna Cleary?
Yes, it is. Hi, I'm Shauna. I'm a senior bio and public health double major at the College of New Jersey. And my primary interests lie in the interplay between biology and public health. So I'm really interested in how human interactions with the environment, whether that's deforestation, climate change, or anything like that, influences the spread of disease.
Awesome, thank you. Greg, who's going to introduce himself later, mentioned there's a couple of McGill students, which is wonderful. We have a couple of McGill graduates on our faculty. Caitlin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. Thanks so much for having me today. My name is Caitlin Murray. I'm a current Skidmore undergraduate, a biology major, chemistry minor, and I currently study in the sector of microbiology and specifically antibiotic resistance. And so I'm definitely curious at Yale to hopefully continue some sector of research in antibiotic resistance, but I'm definitely open to other avenues within epi disease as well.
Great, thank you. Is it Diona Vigil?
Hi, yeah, it's Diana. My name is Diana, or D for short. I'm from Nombre Pueblo, New Mexico, and that's where I'm calling in from. I currently work with a nonprofit organization focused on addressing infectious disease disparities in American Indian and Alaska Native tribes. And I'm really interested in infectious diseases, specifically invasive bacterial diseases, and how they intersect with climate change and different things that have to do with the environment. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any other student that I missed wants to introduce themselves? I don't think I see anymore. All right, wonderful. So we're going to do a quick round of introduction of the faculty, just mentioning their name, the topics that they've been interested in researching on, and then we'll open it up for discussion and any questions the students have about the curriculum, about research opportunities, fellowship opportunities, etc. So let me start by asking the chair of our department, current chair, Sarab Axel. If Sarab, you can introduce yourself, please.
Hi, hello everyone, welcome. My name is Serap Aksoy. I'm the interim chair of our department. I am a vector biologist and study a neglected vector-borne disease. It's African sleeping sickness, which is transmitted by a parasite and a fatal disease in animals and humans in Africa. So I'm looking around and I don't think I see other except for Peter Krause, who's another vector biologist. But just on behalf of my other faculty colleagues who are in this discipline, we have a strong core of faculty who work on vector-borne diseases and also zoonotic infections. So we collectively study various biological, ecological aspects of their transmission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anne Wiley.
Yeah, hi, I'm Anne Wiley. I'm a research scientist in the department. My background's in medical microbiology, where I've been using saliva as a sample type to look at pneumococcal carriage detection, so in healthy individuals. And we're recently working to validate and optimize saliva as a sample type for SARS-CoV-2 detection.
Thank you so much, Anne. Peter.
Had to unmute myself, sorry. My name is Peter Krause. I'm a senior research scientist. My area of interest, research interest, is tick-borne diseases, and I focus primarily on human babesiosis, but also study Lyme disease and Borrelia miyamotoi. And certainly welcome you all, and this is a wonderful department.
Thank you, Peter. Dan?
Hi, I'm Dan Weinberger. I'm an associate professor in the department. My work is mainly on the epidemiology of respiratory infections, particularly pneumococcus and RSV, and evaluating the impacts of currently available vaccines and looking at potential impacts of vaccines that might be coming down the pipeline. And we do a lot of statistical modeling, collaborate with others in the department on other types of modeling work. I also do some work on field studies here in New Haven, along with Anne Wiley on studying transmission among adults living in New Haven. And I teach a course on public health surveillance in the spring semester. So I think this is the most exciting epidemiology program in the country. If you're interested in infectious diseases, there's a lot of really great stuff going on in the department. And I hope you decide to join us. And sorry, I actually have to jump off in a couple minutes because I have kids, but feel free to contact me if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. Loretta Grau.
Hi there, I'm Loretta Grau. I'm a research scientist in the department, and my training was in psychology. And coming up here, the first thing I was working on was HIV, particularly with people who inject drugs, HIV prevention and harm reduction amongst them, but have also had the opportunity to work with HIV and the TB co-infection, and also more recently PrEP amongst transgender women in Southeast Asia. I've also done some work with COVID-19 and with the opioid use, the opioid crisis that we have going on right now. My specialty is much more qualitative and mixed methods, and that's where I kind of go across multiple subjects in my studies.
Thank you, Loretta. Robert.
Good evening. I'm Robert Heimer, a professor in the department. My work is at the intersection of infectious diseases and substance use. We collaborate with people in at our AIDS Center, the Center for Interdisciplinary Research on AIDS, where Loretta Grau is now sitting. I also interact with the people in the program on addictions medicine and the emergency department to try to expand access to medications to treat opiate use disorder. Much of my work in the past has been in HIV, but one of our successes in infectious disease public health has been controlling the HIV epidemic in people who inject drugs. And that doesn't mean all of their problems are solved, not by a long shot. And with the continued expansion of the opioid epidemic and increases in opioid overdose deaths, much of my work is sort of been focused in that area. Although infectious diseases like hepatitis C remain a major problem among people who use drugs.
Thank you, Robert. Laura.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm just delighted to see so many students from all over the world. So my name is Laura Bothwell. I'm a historian and an ethicist of epidemiology. I'm writing a book related to historical and ethical dimensions of randomized controlled trials. And I also have some new work developing in the area of the intersection of climate change and public health ethics. So I'm delighted to hear that a number of you are interested in the intersection of climate change and infectious disease. And if you'd like to get involved in the ethical dimensions of this, I'd love to work with you.
Thank you. Ginny?
Hi, I'm Ginny Pitzer. I'm an associate professor in the department, and my research focuses on mathematical and statistical modeling of infectious diseases, primarily vaccine preventable diseases and enteric diseases. So a lot of my research is on understanding the impacts of rotavirus vaccines, first in the US and now focusing more on low and middle income countries, as well as the impacts of typhoid fever vaccines and some of the new vaccines that have just been introduced or starting to be introduced to a lot of low income countries now. And also do research on RSV and COVID work with Dan and others in the department, and teach a course on quantitative methods for infectious disease epidemiology. So really the statistical methods that are going to be specific to infectious diseases and understanding how they spread in the population.
Thank you so much. Linda.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much to all of the students who've taken your time to be with us this evening. I'm a professor in the department. My longest standing research interest is in the behavioral and social epidemiology of sexually transmitted infections, including a fair amount of work in HIV. But the focus of my work has shifted over time through my interest in sexually transmitted infections. About 10 years ago or so, I started working in vaccine uptake for a human papillomavirus vaccine. And I still work deeply in that area of HPV vaccine uptake and impact. And that has led me to become interested in vaccine epidemiology more broadly, with a real focus on vaccine uptake, vaccine hesitancy, and vaccine impact for a variety of different diseases. I'm also the director of the Connecticut Emerging Infections Program at Yale, and I'd be happy to talk more about that if folks are interested. The course I teach is the core epidemiology class. We affectionately refer to it as EPI1. The full title is Foundations of Epidemiology for Public Health. And that's the course that all of our MPH students take in their first semester. So it's nice to meet you all again, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. And Greg.
Hey, everybody. I'm Greg. I'm an associate professor in the department. I was also a PhD student here not long ago, and I can attest to the testimonial by Dan that this is one of the most exciting places to be if you want to study infectious disease epidemiology. Like Robert and Loretta, I study substance use and its intersection with infectious diseases, particularly using different kinds of quantitative techniques to ask questions and try to answer them in that context. Also have an interest in social epidemiology and causal inference, and also run a program at the law school with my friends Amy and Ali called the Global Health Justice Partnership. I teach two courses. One is called Political Epidemiology, which is social epidemiology meets causal inference. And the second one is a new seminar which we're going to start this spring called Health Justice, the New Politics of Care, thinking about a whole range of sort of social, political, and economic issues and how it's particularly paved the way for the devastation we've seen in the COVID pandemic in the United States. And I'm also a member of the New Haven Board of Health, which I have to go to a meeting of in about 7 minutes.
Thank you, Greg. I see one new student has joined us. Is it Jandra? If you don't
Hello,
mind.
it's
Hi.
Yanya.
Yanya, if you could introduce yourself, and if there's a particular topic of interest in infectious disease, just let us know.
Yes, definitely. So I finished my undergrad last year, and I currently work in as a research technician. And I'm specifically interested in infectious diseases, vector-borne diseases, and would like to learn more.
Okay, fantastic. Is there any other new student who joined that I don't see? Okay. Well, I'll just briefly introduce myself, and then we're going to open it up for the students that are with us to ask any question you have, again, about requirements, about thesis projects, internships, etc. So I'm Kaveh Kushnud. As you heard, I am the chair of the admission committee for our school, and my own research interest is on HIV/AIDS and substance use. I've also become interested in research ethics, and more recently, my interest has shifted to health issues in humanitarian crises. I'm going to be teaching a new course in the spring of 2022 called Health in Humanitarian Crises. So I'm interested in health of refugees and other displaced populations. Let me at this point open it up for any question the students may have. You could just raise your hand, talk, or put in the chat box, whatever you feel more comfortable doing. What would you like to know about our department? Yep. Is it Shana?
Yes, hi. Thank you all so much for sharing your research. It's all very interesting. And I have to hop off in a few minutes, but I look forward to watching the rest of the recorded video. But I was wondering what typical involvement looked like in your labs in terms of independence or mentorship, and what students can typically be expected to do.
All right. Any faculty member wants to mention how students approach you? How do they get engaged in your research? What sorts of opportunities are there? Anyone wants to raise their hand or just talk?
Well, sure, I can just jump in and say that we have many, many students who work in our research groups in a variety of capacities. I have never met a student in all of my years being at Yale who wanted to have a practical applied experience working in a research group who did not get one. The way to do it, there are many ways in which you can do that. One is to simply email a faculty member whose work looks interesting to you, and you can do that at any time. I receive emails from prospective students, from admitted students, from matriculating students, and from students after they've been here for 6 months or a year. So you should feel free to reach out at any point in time to any faculty member. It's helpful if you send your CV or your resume and say what you're interested in. Once you're here, in addition to, so our students work with faculty in a variety of ways. One way is that, paid employment. So if a faculty member has a position for a student, you can apply for it, and it can be, 10 to 15 hours per week for paid employment. You can also work with faculty members. We have both a summer internship requirement and a thesis requirement, which they can be related or they can be separate, but it is 2 separate requirements. And our students you don't have to work with a faculty member in our department, but you can. So through both of those mechanisms, for which, like the thesis, for example, you get course credit. So that's another way to get involved in a research group. And the third way that I can think of off the top of my head, and folks may have other thoughts that I'm not thinking of, we have a course, which is basically like an independent study course. It's called Laboratory and Field Studies in Infectious Disease Epidemiology. So you can register for that course if you've identified a faculty member who is willing to work with you for a semester, and you basically get course credit. So there are many sort of mechanisms by which you can do that, but a good place to start is to email any faculty member whose work seems interesting to you.
Just to jump in as a former student, I think the mentorship at Yale School of Public Health is superb. Our faculty are superb, but I feel like there's an open door policy in that, you know, you can get lots of courses at different schools of public health, but we're a small school. We take mentorship and development of our students and the future of our students very, very seriously. And so I think it's a great place to sort of get a hands-on education as well as a classroom one.
Yeah, and I can also add, faculty are very approachable. I just had lunch with 3 of our MPH students yesterday. So we have this mechanism by which students can invite a faculty to lunch. So we chatted over 2 hours about prospects, career prospects, and epidemiology in general. So we are a small school. Our class is not large. So I think there is even less than 1 student per faculty. So you get a lot of attention.
Great, thank you so much.
Caitlin?
Thank you so much for that insight into how students can get involved in research. I was also wondering, I know students are paired within the department with an advisor from the beginning, and I was curious how that process is arranged. Is that based on students' statement and what their interests are they're expressing? And then over time, does that advisor also talk with them about their potential research interests and sort of help them develop potential matches, or is that particularly on the student to do more of that research, I guess?
I think Greg can probably respond to that.
So Caitlin, you know, Linda before me, but now I do this. And what I do is I go through your essays and try to think of the particular faculty member might be the primary best advisor for you as you get here. What people have talked about is our thesis work and the other kinds of research work we might do here. What I do for my advisees is try to get a sense of what they're interested in the first few months, first year, and try to guide them towards somebody if it's not me, who their best bet would be for a thesis advisor or for laboratory work or for other kinds of field work. So again, we take the advising really seriously, and we want to match you up with the person who's best for you in terms of your time here at Yale.
And I can just add one thing to that. As Greg mentioned, I worked on academic advising in the department before Greg took it over a couple of years ago. So Greg is absolutely correct. We do our best to match you up with a faculty advisor where it looks like there could be some synergy in research interests. But I will say it's not always possible. So if everybody says they want to do political social epidemiology with Greg Gonzalez, we can't give him every single student in the department. So we have to sort of distribute that. But I think that there's real benefit to having an advisor who might be outside of your research area of interest, because that's somebody who you might not meet otherwise. You are likely to connect with the faculty who share your research interests, right? Through taking their courses or through working with them. So it's, you can view academic advising, your academic advisor, as an opportunity to meet another faculty member who you might not have otherwise met. So we do try to match. It's not always a perfect match, but whoever your advisor is, as Greg said, and as Sarab said, you'll get plenty of attention. And one of the things that your academic advisor can do, whoever they may be, is point you in the direction of other folks around the school and around the university who you might benefit from connecting with.
Thank you. Other questions? Sarah?
Yeah, I have 2 questions, a bit more high level than I think some of the logistics. One being, I'm very impressed by the backgrounds of all the faculty on the call. And so, and also kind of the way Yale is set up in terms of being able to facilitate, at least from the outside, a lot of those multidisciplinary collaborations. And so I'd be curious to hearing more on how Yale supports those types of collaborations, whether that's between, different faculty, both at the School of Public Health or outside, as well as with different types of organizations. And then my second question is more, I guess, on the academic community. Would love to hear your reflections on what you see as the currency of success, both for faculty as well as for students that are graduating either from the MPH or PhD. Thanks.
Good questions.
I'd be happy to take on the first question if you want. So when it comes to kind of collaborations like among the faculty, a lot of times those are actually really kind of facilitated by the students. A student may have a particular interest, but want to bring in kind of expertise from a bunch of different faculty. So for example, they may be interested in trypanosomiasis and vector-borne disease, but want to apply some modeling methods to that. So they might bring together Saurabh and someone like myself to actually work on a project modeling transmission of African trypanosomiasis, kind of by blending the different expertise that we may have. And there's also a lot of collaborations that we have individually with people kind of at universities across the world as part of our own research projects typically. I mean, I work with people at University of Oxford, as well as in field sites in Malawi, Bangladesh, Nepal, Ghana, and a handful of other places to kind of carry out a lot of the research that I'm doing. And there's also it's really easy to kind of collaborate and to work with people across campus at Yale as well, which is not always true of other schools. For one thing, the campus is relatively small, and so it takes like maybe only 10 minutes if you have a bike, maybe 20 minutes if you're walking to get from one side of campus, like for example, where the School of Public Health is and the medical school is, to the other side of campus where, say, the biology department is. Everything is really just within a relatively small place, and there's not really any kind of barriers in terms of being able to reach out and, say, take classes in the School of the Environment or the School of Management. And in fact, like some of our courses are kind of cross-listed there as elective. We have elective courses in those different schools. And so really, you have the entire University of Yale kind of at your disposal.
Maybe I can just add one other thought, which is there are lots of centers. So for example, I think Robert Heimer mentioned Center for Interdisciplinary Research on AIDS. And these centers bring faculty from throughout the campus who, let's say, have a particular interest in HIV/AIDS, but from very different perspectives, from a clinical perspective, epidemiological perspectives, political perspective, ethical perspective, etc. So then faculty kind of come together and get to know each other, and then sometimes they also line up with student interest. And also, you probably heard about our Yale Center for Climate Change and Health, which some of the faculty in our department are also affiliated with. So that's another center which brings people from all kinds of backgrounds and expertise who have a particular focus on climate change and its impact on public health. Your second question, if I understood it, was quite interesting, which is like the impact, right? So what would be a successful graduate? What would they be doing? Is that what your question was? The second question?
Exactly. I think both for graduates and then also faculty as well. I mean, I think obviously in academia, it's usually, the quantity and quality of publications, but I'm wondering if Yale use that differently.
Okay. And Laura, did you have a question or did you have a comment to make?
Oh, I had just a comment on the interdisciplinary question. Yeah. Just to also speak to the interdisciplinarity of our own department, as a historian and an ethicist, I'm a bit different from, the infectious epidemiologist focus of a number of our faculty. And it's been a real privilege to be able to work with students who are exploring ethical and historical dimensions of their projects and, questions that they have toward a more social sciences, humanities orientation. So it's been nice to be a part of being in a department that values interdisciplinarity, and having the opportunity to work with students to talk about infectious diseases from multiple perspectives, and then also to connect students with scholars and literature beyond the department as well. So I think it's a really rich department from an interdisciplinary perspective.
Thank you. Any of the faculty want to comment on Sarah's questions about what is sort of a successful example of one of our graduates? What are we hoping they will accomplish? Obviously, some of them go sort of the academic routes, but I don't have an exact percentage, but I'm going to say that's not the majority who want to get a PhD, get a postdoc, and sort of have an academic position. Students go and explore all sorts of careers. But I wonder if any of the faculty want to mention kind of what's in their mind when they're advising a student and helping them launch their career. Yeah, Sarah.
So in my experience, quite a number of students come not knowing exactly what they would like to do. So part of the mentoring involves helping the students identify their strengths, what they find best, their interests, what they enjoy doing. So usually I find that some students may want to go to the PhD, but they may not yet be sure whether they want to be really, committing themselves to that long training. So in that case, I would advise them to maybe join one of our laboratories, be it field or lab, to get some perspective, some real experience. So mentoring is essential in helping the students find their focus of interest and help them move forward. We have career advising services which are excellent in helping the students, particularly the second year students, in again finding whether it's jobs or services that they would be interested in moving further, moving beyond their MPH. So it's hard to find one thing. Nothing fits the bill. No one bill fits the problem. So it's really that close mentoring that faculty provide that help the students. And some of the students work in the labs and get publications. So that research can be a real experience.
Thank you. Other faculty have thoughts about the career path of their advisees? I think I have this. Go ahead. Go ahead, Linda. No, I just mentioned I had the same kind of thought that Sarab had. It really sort of case by case, because some students are not quite sure and they're considering an academic career, but then they do an internship, they work with a humanitarian organization, with an NGO, and then they get really passionate about the work that's being done sort of on the field, and they pivot their career. And from my perspective, I want to help them go where they want to go and have the most impact that they can. You're not sort of imposing a particular career trajectory on them. It's really about what is it that they want to do. But Linda, if you have anything to add, please.
Well, I think what Sarab and Kaveh both said is absolutely true, that success is helping students achieve what their own personal goals are, and every student has their own unique goals. And the mentoring that we've talked a lot about, I think, has helped our students to be successful in achieving whatever it is they want to do. I think Sarab talked a bit about the research that students might want to do and heading toward sort of an academic research trajectory. We also have a lot of students in our department who are very interested in doing applied public health work. So working in a state health department or a local health department, or going to work at the CDC, for example. And we have a lot of opportunities for students to do that. I mentioned the Connecticut Emerging Infections Program, which is, it's a CDC funded project that's here at the School of Public Health. It's a partnership with our State Department of Public Health. And we provide, I mean, literally like countless, like I cannot count the number of students that have received some training in public health surveillance and applied epidemiology at the EIP. And these students go on, they do applied fellowships in health departments. Many of them go to CDC. So really, whether a student wants to have an academic trajectory or a public health trajectory or a medical trajectory, you know, I think our students, whatever it is they're interested in, we help them find their way here.
Thank you. Any other questions from the students? Shauna?
Yeah, so this is kind of going off of that last discussion, but I was wondering if once your students graduate, if you still maintain those connections with those former students and still advise them post-graduation.
Good question. I have a feeling the answer for all the faculty is yes, but I'll let them say, can you tell us something about your advisees, what they have been doing post-graduation and what kind of relationship they continue to have with you?
So I currently, I mean, and it's top of mind because I was just texting with her before I jumped on this call. We had an MPH student graduate. I think she graduated in 2018. And she's now doing her PhD at the University of Alabama in Birmingham. And I'm on her committee. I'm on her dissertation committee. So, you know, she went to UAB for her PhD. It was a better fit for her research interest, but I worked with her. I was her advisor when she was a student here. And so I'm continuing, you know, 3 years later, I'm still continuing to advise her. So if the fit is there, if it's appropriate, if it makes sense for us to continue mentoring our students, we absolutely do it.
Yeah, and I've also had students kind of reach out to me kind of subsequently and ask for, you know, additional career advice, particularly around, you know, applying to PhD programs if they decide to pursue a PhD, ask for recommendation letters, things like that. I think we're always, you know, excited and enjoy hearing from our former graduates and finding out kind of what they're doing. But often the emphasis is on the student themselves to kind of reach out and let us know kind of what they're doing and hopefully, you know, how they're applying some of the things that they've learned as part of the program.
A student who worked with me on babesiosis 2 years ago went on to work at a very large FDA lab that is involved with malaria research. And I'm now working with that colleague, and we are doing malaria babesia work together. And that student is working in that lab. And so we continue to work together on joint projects, and about to publish one of several papers that we anticipate from the work that she did. So, so it's been it was very good collaboration with the students, and it's continued several years now after her graduation.
I think it's not only just the wonderful collaborations and the ongoing mentoring, but it's for not all, but for some, it can be beyond that into friendships. I have gone to weddings of people and certainly have gotten beyond just the requests for mentoring or for recommendations for graduate school. They look at us as friends as well as collaborators often.
I have a question, and so
Hey.
sorry if this was already asked because I dropped off for a while there. But in terms of publications, is it common that students will publish during their time in the MPH program, and is that an expectation at all?
Very good question. Anybody wants to comment on that? Maybe I can start by saying, to my knowledge, there's no expectation that you must publish a paper before you graduate. However, we certainly encourage students to turn their, for example, thesis project into a manuscript and maybe submit it for publication. But as you probably know, it's a very long process. It is quite likely that the publication may not happen until after their graduation. Then it has to be revise and resubmit the paper, etc. But I can tell you that, I mean, I don't have an exact number, but a good number of students work with their faculty mentors and do submit mostly around their thesis project, but sometimes it's kind of a side project, and they submit it for publications. Other faculty have experience with about authorship with students and comments.
Yeah, I'll just add, it is not an expectation, but it really is an opportunity. I just pulled up my CV and looked at the last 10 papers that I published, and 7 of them have student co-authors. So definitely the opportunity and the possibility is there for certain.
I've had several students publish both through thesis and then others that weren't doing a thesis, but just the work that we did led to publication. So it's been a really good experience to have the students work on projects that go on to publications.
As you probably know, our school is very sort of research oriented and focused. Not all schools of public health have like a strong research component. So every single faculty is engaged in active research, and they're always looking for opportunities to bring students to their team. So opportunities to work with faculty on projects and turn it into a publication is definitely there.
I think it's very consistent, what you're saying, Kaveh, is very consistent with what Linda, I think, had expressed before, is we're really here to help the students do what they want. So to a certain degree, if you want to be publishing, certainly there are going to be no roadblocks. We will do everything we can to get that goal met.
You're welcome. We have a few more minutes if there are any more questions.
Yeah, just to also say we're very approachable. If there are questions that come to your mind after this, feel free to email our faculty.
Absolutely. I hope you had a chance to look at our website. I mean, we're always trying to update it because the faculty are involved in many other activities that is not necessarily on their website. So it's a continuous sort of plan, but you definitely will get a sense of the range of projects they're working on, and you absolutely can reach out to them. As Linda mentioned, we have many applicants who write to us and they want to have a conversation with us to help them actually make a decision whether our department and our school is the right choice for them. So don't be hesitant at all to reach out. I think you're all going to get, I mean, you saw our dean put his cell phone on the chat box, which is a relatively unusual thing to do, I must say, but, and he means it. I mean, I know students who called him and he speaks with them. So feel free to reach out. Any last minute questions or any thoughts from the faculty you want to share before we end? All right, is it Anne? Oh no, Sarah. Go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry, one last question, because it's usually, well, very unusual to have this many faculty on one call and be able to ask questions. I guess I'm curious to hear what the department's priorities are for the coming year, and if COVID has affected those at all in terms of how you're structuring your current work or thinking about, you know, the next 5-10 years.
Great question. Sarab, do you want to start?
Well, COVID, obviously many of our faculty were in the front lines of COVID research, and they've done exceedingly well. So I don't know if they will come back to their original line of work or will expand in the COVID. So both are possibilities. But I think our department is looking to grow, looking to hire additional younger faculty. And also looking for a new chair. So that doesn't necessarily affect you, but we're excited. So the new chair will likely come next year when you are in matriculation, and the new chair will likely bring many resources also to the department. So that's always a good thing. In terms of strengths, you know, COVID work, emerging infections, we're very global. We didn't get to talk about our global work, but we have projects in many parts of the world. So if you look on our website, you'll see how our faculty work in various continents and in a collaborative fashion with their colleagues in be it the medical school or ecology, evolutionary biology. Really, these are often these are very large programs. So we intend to continue on training the global leadership in infectious diseases. So COVID obviously affected some of our international work, but things are becoming a bit more normal. So we're all looking forward to, you know, going up, continuing the global health work that we all do. Beyond that, I don't know, anyone else have thoughts on our department priorities? That's a good question.
I can add one thing, but I've been doing a lot of talking. So if somebody else wants to go ahead, I can just be quiet.
Go ahead, Linda. I don't see any hands up.
Okay. I think it's a very thoughtful question. And I think in some ways the answer to that question is similar to the answer to your prior question around what is success for students. I think it varies from person to person. So in terms of, you know, I've been deeply entrenched in COVID work for the past 18 months. And personally, I'm really looking forward to the day when I can get back to my prior work. COVID will not become my life's work. And I want to get back to the other things that I've done. There are other faculty who may feel quite differently. But the one thing I can say about COVID, one thing that it has done is, so, you know, we are an infectious disease epidemiology department. So we are all touched professionally, I mean, personally as well, but professionally, we've all been touched by COVID, I think in one way or another. And I think one thing that COVID has done is it has really elevated the stature and the recognition and the appreciation for what our department does across the university. So I've said this before, and I'm sure I'll say it again. I have met more people. I've been at Yale for 20 years. And I've met more people at the university in the past 18 months than in the prior 19 years combined. So the opportunities that COVID has created, whether I want to continue my COVID work or not continue my COVID work, I think it has created real opportunities for people in our department with new partnerships and new collaborations and new relationships. So it's an exciting time. And I've also said before, and I'm sure I'll say again, that you know, COVID will be a pressing public health problem for years to come, probably, and we need good people working in that area. But every public health problem we had before COVID is still with us, and probably a more pressing public health problem than it was 2 years ago. So we need all of you to come and study public health and become good infectious disease epidemiologists. There's a lot of work to do. And I think the silver lining of COVID is that we now, I think we're in a much stronger place going forward to do infectious disease epidemiology, whatever it is, whatever our chosen path may be.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah, that was great. I'm just going to add one small thing on top of that. And that is, I think that we may be the only true infectious disease epidemiology focused program or department in the country. And one of the benefits of that is that we really focus on infectious diseases. And while you learn the basic kind of epi curriculum, you can also explore and combine that with any sort of laboratory interest or interest in field research or interest in modeling, and really have a lot of flexibility within the program to combine an interest on infectious disease with really strong training in epidemiology that isn't necessarily what you're going to find in, say, a basic epi program or a basic kind of microbiology program.
Thank you, Ginny. I want to thank all my wonderful colleagues for being present and for also the applicant, the students, to be here with us and asking questions. Becca, do you have any final things you want to say before we end the call?
Yeah, just want to echo that. Thanks. We really appreciate your time to everyone here. And I guess just my last closing comment is, the sentiment that's kind of been echoed today, we have a very open door policy as a school. So if you have questions about anything at all in the process of learning more about YSPH, we encourage you to reach out. We are all here to help. If you don't know the right resource, our office, the Office of Admissions, is a great first place to start. Don't hesitate at any point in time to reach out to us. You have all hopefully by this point gotten at least one email from me. If not, you will by the end of the week. But don't hesitate to ask questions, to attend other events this week and kind of throughout the coming weeks and months. And we are happy to connect you with whatever resources can help you learn more about the school and the program and make the right choice for you. So thank you. I appreciate everyone's time and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.